anything you configure, you need to have a documentation in place. You need to have proper documentation that whatever changes has been done, whatever you know systemic changes have been done, they should be documented, and somebody has to be responsible. Whosoever is responsible should maintain the documentation. Then you have something called change management. Change management are systemic level changes. You have to. There are some bigger changes, okay, and you have to introduce systemic level changes, and you want to ensure that in case there are system level changes, it does not, affect the. There are no outages in the system. Primary aim is not to cause outage. Say you are changing the complete enterprise firewall, all firewalls. Your firewalls have lived their life. You not need to change it. So you do not change all firewalls in one day. You first become a test suite, you deploy your firewall, and then see it is running fine. Then you replicate slowly and steadily. But it has to follow some process, and that process is called change. Okay. Change management. You have, 6 stages. One is you request the change, whatever you want to change. Then somebody has to review the change. As I told you, somebody has to approve it. Somebody has to test it. Somebody has to deploy it, and somebody has to document it. These are the change management processes. Okay. Related to change management and configuration management is something called versioning. So there are a lot of software and documents which we produce in our organization, and there will be multiple copies and multiple, editions which will get. It is very important to have a proper labeling and numbering of different versions. Okay. Developers need to be aware in case they are developing software. Okay. Let's have one more question. Right. So pretty simple, right? Implementing the change quickly without advanced time. Right. Then we had patch management and vulnerability management. Patch management is, again, you need to follow a process. Okay. You need to evaluate the patch, test it, approve it, deploy it, and verify that patches are working properly and it does not cause any outages in the system. Vulnerability management, we had yesterday covered vulnerability management. Okay. What is the CVE? What are the CVSS? So vulnerability management is basically used to you use vulnerability scanners to see vulnerability in your organization and then try to patch those vulnerabilities so that hackers are not able to get to those gaps in your software. Okay. Generally, you evaluate vulnerabilities using common vulnerability enumeration, which we saw yesterday. Okay. MITRE, which is a NIST outlay, maintains the common vulnerability enumeration database. Okay. You can go to a MITRE site and see the common vulnerabilities available. You can pull the CVEs into your organization and match it with the existing vulnerabilities in your organization. Okay. Then we saw incident management. Incident management is anything negative which can affect the CIO of the company's asset. Okay. NIST SP 1861 gives you incident handling guide. You can go through it if you are in the incident response. Okay. Common incidents which will keep happening: network intrusion, denial of service, malicious software, unauthorized access, violation of the security policies. This will keep happening. Okay. The main thing is you need to detect it, respond it, mitigate, report, recover, remediate, and learn the lessons. Okay. I had a question wherein this gap was given and this was missing, or they were jumbled up. Okay. These were jumbled up, something like that. And I had to just correlate with that. So if you know what is the sequence, then you know what to do. Do the right thing. Detection. For detection, we use multiple tools: IDS, IPS, anti-malware solutions. Okay. Generally, first responders use the detection tools. Okay. Then response team, there is a separate response team. There might be the same detection and response team, but response team is trained to respond to a given situation. They can investigate the matter, collect evidence, and they can find what happened, what caused the problem. Generally carried out by computer incident response team or computer security incident response teams. Okay. Then you try to contain the incident. As I told you, you need to contain the incident. You do not need to let it spread. Okay. Responders take immediate steps to contain the situation. And then you see, okay, if something has gone wrong, let's recover the systems back to the secure state. Okay. And then you do a root cause analysis. Remediation is root cause. Why did it happen? Okay. We saw that. And then you take out your lessons learned and improve your processes, your teams learn from it, and you improve the processes. Okay. Please have a question on that. Right. Simple question, right? Okay. And then we have certain detective and preventive measures. What are preventive measures? Preventive measures are basically the attempts to stop someone from doing anything untoward. And detective controls are to basically see that if something is going wrong, you can detect it. So keep that. In security operations, you are trying to prevent and also detect that if something is going wrong. So what are the basic preventive measures that we take? We keep our systems up to date. We remove, disable any unwanted protocols, use IDS and IPS, use EDR, antivirus solutions, firewalls, configuration and system management. These are the preventive things which we do. And what are the detective things that we do? We will take. So for that, to carry out detective things, we need to understand different kind of attacks. The first attack is botnets. What is botnets? Botnets are basically what hackers do is they deliver small pieces of malware to your systems and they make it part of a bigger network. Okay. And they use your computing power to launch an attack on the target. Okay? So this is called a bot network. How can you prevent it? Firstly, by keeping all your software patched, up to date. Your users should not click on any phishing links. Okay, use of EDR, AV, antivirus, everything. Okay. Standard procedure. Then denial of service attacks. Denial of service attacks are basically carried out generally at layer 3 and layer. Okay, you're carrying out the attack at layer 3, layer 2, and layer 4 so that a particular service is not available. So if you have hosted a web application, your users are not able to access your web application. Okay? Or you have an internet connection through which you go outwards and connect to your cloud services, somebody come and cuts the cable. Okay? Denial of service attack. Okay, but generally denial of service attacks are carried out at the network level, at the link layer level, and at the transport layer level. So generally you deny by something called denial of service attacks are prevented by something called rate limiting. So you do not let any user ask for more than one request or two requests per second. So that way you can find out. You also might have to shift your main system from, so your attack is coming on this system, you shift your load on the alternate system. So let the attack keep on coming in, but your main traffic has moved on to some other IP or other system. So let the attack continue and you shift the load to your alternate system. That is how you can also prevent denial of service. So common denial of service attacks, we have already seen this. This is a repetition. SYN flood attack, wherein a hacker controls the bot network and sends SYN packets, okay, to waste your resource. Then there is something called a Smurf attack. Smurf attack is when the attacker takes control of multiple, a bot network and sends ICMP packets, basically ping commands. Okay, that will also take up your resource. Then you have a Fraggle attack. In Fraggle attack, the attacker takes control of multiple computers and sends you a UDP packet. Okay, UDP ping packet. UDP ping packets have a habit of a streaming effect. Okay, they continuously stream. So it's a very effective denial of service attack. Okay, that's called a Fraggle attack. And then you have ping flood attack. Ping flood attack is when multiple networks, they send a ping request to one target to overwhelm the target. Then what is a zero-day exploit? A zero-day exploit is an exploit which you are not aware of. Okay, I made the software, okay, and I myself am not aware of the vulnerabilities in my software. Whereas the hacker comes to know of the vulnerabilities and he exploits them. That is called a zero-day exploit. Okay, a zero-day exploits, you have to keep a check on your zero-day exploits. So that's why threat intelligence is very, very important, and knowing vulnerabilities is very, very important. Now, you might so happen that Windows releases a vulnerability at on Tuesday night. What is there? On a Tuesday night, and you are sleeping because in US it has released the patch, and you are sleeping in India time. Between the time you come to know, the hacker has exploited the vulnerability. Okay, so that's why you need to have an eye on your vulnerability management systems. Man in the middle attacks. Man in the middle attacks are the attacks which are carried out by coming physically, okay, between two endpoints. So man in the middle attacks, they basically want to compromise your communication and read your database. Such attacks are called man in the middle attacks. So basically, they're trying to get between you and the server and trying to read your username, password, and all of it. And that's why to prevent from them, you are supposed to use something called a VPN. Okay. Then at times, employees, might sabotage your systems. They got angry, they get fired, they might sabotage your system. So you need to have an eye for that. What kind of sabotage can be resulted from employee firing? It's very, very common, right? Employees become very, very, agitated when they are fired, right? Because they are going to lose money. How will they run their house? So those are the concerns. Okay, so this question is nothing important. I will go to this question. Right. Simple question, denial of service, right? So, see, you will be asked some such simple questions, but the language will be very, very, this language will be very, very difficult. You have to understand that language in the exam. Answers will be as similar as this. The language will be more convoluted. So IDS, IPS, we have generally discussed. There's nothing knowledge-based systems. I told you signature-based, behavior-based system. We've already discussed. It creates a baseline. Okay, now whenever systems are working, they might create false alarms. And false alarms, you should know there is a false positive. Whenever you deploy such systems, they will give you false positive, false negative, true positive, true negative. False positive is system flags good as bad. So that means there is no intrusion. That means system is very, very highly sensitive. Then false negative, system flags bad as good. Now that is bad. Okay, that means intrusion has happened. True positive, system flags bad as bad. So that means it isn't able to detect the bad. So that means intrusion has happened. And true negative, the system does not flag bad as bad. That means system has a very low system sensitivity. Okay, generally be aware of these terms. So IDS can respond and it can do a passive response or a active response. What is the passive response? It just notifies the members in the team. Active response, it modifies the environment, it modifies the firewall to stop the attack. There are two kinds I told you, host-based IDS and network-based IDS. I already told you. Okay. Then intrusion prevention systems, I've already told you how intrusion prevention systems work. They are in line on the network with an IDS system which sends them the command to stop the attack. Okay. Then honeypot and honeynet I have discussed. Okay, enticement, entrapment discussed. You can have warning banners on your websites. Anti-malware solution, whitelisting, blacklisting discussed. Firewalls is something which I will discuss. Now, circuit level firewall is, you have a firewall which knows the state of the circuit. That means which port and which IP. So it maps port and IP, and depending upon, say, I am a client, I am a user, I have requested www.google.com. Okay. So firewall says that there is a request to go to. So now it knows that what is my IP, say 192.168.2.1. Okay, so it says, okay, 192.168.2.1 has requested for 8.8.8.8 at port 443. So this is the request. Okay. Now when the response comes from 8.8.8.8 to 190, it will not be 192, it will be a public internet connection. So IP and then to the port number 443. So now the firewall knows that, okay, this is a valid response, and it will allow the connection inside. Okay. Now, this is called a circuit level. You are mapping the circuit. Okay? Who is going where? Then there is something called stateful. Stateful is, I make a request, okay, and the firewall is aware of my request. And when the response comes to this request, I do not check it. I know that this response is in condition to this request. Okay, that's called stateful firewall. I am aware of your state. What did you did? And that's why I am allowing you. I will not maintain a rule table. I am aware of your state. So that's why I will allow you. That's called stateful. Web application firewalls, they only protect web applications, websites. Okay. So they are application level firewalls. Okay. Which are deployed for common web applications, common web vulnerabilities, common web exploits. What are common web exploits? Okay, SQL injection, cross-site scripting, okay, CSRF violation. So they basically protect against such common violations. And then you have NGFW, next generation firewall. What are next generation firewalls? Next generation firewalls are, as I told you, they have multiple blades. They are capable of reacting from layer 3 to layer 2 to as high as layer 7. So all attacks they can detect at all levels. Okay. They have the capability of something called the TLS proxy. That means they can do decryption and look inside your encrypted packets and can detect any VPN attacks, including VPN insider attacks. There are at times attackers create a VPN to communicate your data outside. So next generation firewalls can check that also. Okay. Right.